Okay, so we are live. Hello, influential leaders and executives. This is Melissa from In Charge Coaching, and we have a few guests for today's live stream, this week's live stream. So just to give you a quick note on what we're talking about today, we're going to be talking about how to, as a leader, be a friend and be a boss. Because these two things get really, really complicated when we are dealing or navigating relationships in the workplace. So as for introductions, if you don't know me yet, I'm an executive coach and a management consultant. And what I do is I work with leaders and with teams every day. And I help them build those relationships, build up an environment where they can be high performing. I have David Baillargeon joining me. So he is from Quebec. He is the co-founder of InspireX, and he's also a fellow instructor. So he teaches choice theory and reality therapy, as well as lead management. So we have quite a bit in common. So he's going to join me for this conversation. And David, tell us a bit about you. What do we need to know about you? And I'd love to hear more about InspireX. What is that?
Okay, well, hello. Thank you for having me here. InspireX is a company that I co-founded with two close ones to my heart, where we try to, we empower those who want to make the world a better place, and try to be closer to the best version of themselves. And we do this by having weekly podcasts, and also by having a membership where we answer useful questions as a community together. So
okay, so nice, kind of like a mastermind is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, but an ongoing one when we have themes per month.
And there's, so as a mastermind, what's great about masterminds is you're an active member. You're not a passive member. You're actually contributing as much as you are receiving.
Yes, because, as you well know, co-creation is so much more powerful than just me like filling the tanks everywhere. No, if we're in it together, like everybody's growing better. So I try to model what is growing by growing myself.
Exactly. Awesome. And we also have Kelsie-Ann on the call with us. So Kelsie-Ann will be monitoring comments. So if you are joining us today, say hi. If you're watching on the replay, #replay. I would love to hear your voices as we are moving through this really interesting topic. And I'm sure some of this is going to align. It's going to sit with you. If there's anything that you want to share, anything that's coming up, I would love to hear it. I'm also going to be asking questions and getting your thoughts on the subject matter as we're going. So please stay tuned and drop in the comments, and Kelsie-Ann will be able to relate to us what you're commenting. So on the topic of how to be a friend and a boss when you're in a position of leadership, there's a few things that in the work that I do on a daily basis, I hear two kind of schools of thoughts, if you want, mindsets that get in the way, that play out on this topic. And one school, one mindset that I hear a lot is, if I'm too nice, if I'm their friend, if I'm too kind, they'll take advantage of me. They won't get the work done. And for those who think like this, and I can raise my hand, I've thought like this a lot. Sometimes we are just scared because we've seen it happen. Sometimes we've actually tried to be a friend. We've tried to be nice. We've tried to be kind. It didn't work. And then we've invested ourselves in things like servant leadership, and that didn't work. So we've tried it, it didn't work. So it keeps us stuck in this school of thought of, if I'm too nice, I'll be taken advantage of. So I can't be their friend, I must be their boss. And on the opposite end of the spectrum is I hear things like, if I'm too direct, if I tell them the truth, if I give them feedback, they're not going to like me. I'm going to lose my relationships. They will leave. They won't want to be here. So that sometimes keeps us stuck in laissez-faire and not interfering, not playing the part of the leader or playing the part of the boss when it's needed. So now we're stuck in the friend zone and the business can suffer.
Mhm.
So as I'm talking about this, what are things that you've heard, either that you've told yourself or that you've heard other leaders say around this subject? I'd love to hear what the thoughts are, the mindsets that play out. And I'm going to throw that ball to David. What have you heard, or what comes up for you as I'm putting this forward?
Well, I can totally relate because I'm a nice guy. And another thing that comes in useful to know is that I'm also a high school teacher, and I teach with classes with special needs at secondary level, which is rock and roll, and a lot of action there. And and I still fall sometimes into being too nice. It does happen. Well, we are package deals, right?
Yes.
But there's few things that helped me and that is still helping me. I often need to touch base with those things in order to gather my strength and my my clarity of where I'm going. And when I touch base with this, boom, I can be the captain that ship needs. Because especially when it's in a group, they need a captain more than a friend here. So it's really important to touch base. And it's we talked about this sooner, you know, having the relationship on one side and the courage on the other one. Ideally, my intervention will take care of the relationship with a lot of goodwill, a lot, but also with a lot of courage. You want to be on that spectrum, if you have an axiom here, and you want to be courageous and full of love. And a little tip, when I say, okay, now I need to say things, it's important that I speak up now. Oh, there's that difficult thing that I need to address. One thing that does help me is I try to connect to love. That's something I respect, even though like whatever happened, something I can respect about that person. And I really want to feel it and feel love, like not in my head, within my chest, I would say. And once I'm connected to it, okay, now speak out loud and say whatever, it'll pass, it'll go, it'll flow. It will be well received, even though it will probably hurt. Sometimes it does.
And that's the thing is we want to, we're hoping that no one's going to react. But when you say things that don't line up with what the person wants to hear, there will be some emotions. There will be some tips in the scale. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to go through that motion. It's more about navigating the emotions that are coming up than trying to avoid them altogether, because you can't. If you're avoiding, you're not dealing with what's in front of you, but you can do it with love. So I love what you said there, and it's not often that we talk about love on this live stream. But you can definitely do it with love. And what I say is, you know, with a people first approach. So the way that I see it, I love that those two axes that you were talking about, because the way that I see it, I kind of had that going on in my mind. But for me, the courage part is the being real with giving the information that the other person needs to know. What are the facts? What's the information that if they knew, they would choose differently?
Yeah. And there's a big difference between being a friend and being friendly.
Yeah.
You know, a friendly person will not necessarily tell you that you have parsley right there and you have like a green tooth, sorry. So a real friend will tell you, man, what's happening with your face?
Yeah.
Even though that's uncomfortable because we're in
you
public.
you might need to check that out. Exactly.
Yeah, go to the mirror right now.
But a friend will tell you this in
Mhm.
confidence when nobody else is listening. They
Mhm.
will do it discreetly. They won't make you feel like it's not going to be shameful or humiliating.
No, not in front of others.
They will do it with kindness, but they will still give you the information that you need to make a choice. You can't make that choice if you don't have the information. So there's that piece of being really real with the information. What do they need to know? And for me, the other piece is being understanding.
Mm.
So I'm going to give you real information, and I'm going to be kind in giving you that information. And then I'm going to be totally open to exploring with you.
Can I challenge you here?
Sure.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm just exploring an idea, actually. Would it be more strategic to, before saying what you need to say, question and try to understand fully first? I don't know. It probably depends on the situations, but I found that, especially with teenagers, the defensive is so easy to block up. And I kind of feel that any employee that has that little defense ready to jump in, better listen before. Because, you know, many people won't listen until they feel listened and understood. And once they really feel that they are understood, then okay, what is it? I want to know more now. I have questions now.
And I think for me, it's not do this, then do that. It's not a step one, step two. It's we need both of these things.
Yeah.
So usually the first piece of information that they need to know is why I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
What's my role? Why should they trust me? Why should they engage? Why should they be open? So there are some pieces of information that they need to know about me and this situation before I can, tell them the big thing that we need to talk about. So I need to give them a piece of information, then ask them if they're open to exploring this conversation. So sometimes a lot of listening needs to happen before you can start adding information, and you're not going to add all of the information like here, bang. You're not going to, steamroll them, but you're going to add the information strategically when the time is right. When the opening is there, when they're open to listening, when they're open to hearing it.
Yep.
So there is an art, a dance.
I happen to have a 7-step dance model.
Interesting. Let's hear it.
Cool. First thing, step 1, go up front and say why you're talking to that person. Let's say, let's say the desired quality that is missing, for example. Let's say that, okay, Melissa, I need to speak to you about punctuality. Step 1. Step 2, what do you think about that? And then after step 2, which is included in step 2, you shut up, listen, and
that's
understand. That's
so
your
hard.
role. That's your role.
That's so
you
hard.
Understand. You do not agree. Most people, like a huge majority of human beings, need to defend themselves when they feel they're wrong. So there will be excuses. And the best thing you can do is not argue, but welcome the excuses and let the bag end. Excuses will just last for a little while, not so long. Step 3, do you know what are my expectations regarding punctuality, because sometimes there's a misunderstanding there. You never know. Sometimes it's, oh, I thought it meant this. Oh, okay, no, let's precise. It's this. Step 4. Hold on. Do you know why I expect this?
So
Do you understand the reason why? Because it's because I'm a control freak. Then just grow and stop being a control freak. Sorry, because I'm the boss and I said so. Well, no, that won't fly for me anyways. For most people, no. You need to have a solid and logical reason behind it.
Yeah.
It needs to make sense. Absolutely. And if it does not, well, let's have a disagreement and talk openly. Okay. And then, do you see advantages for you to comply, let's say, or to respect this, actually, more this, to respect this? And sometimes my students say, well, we won't have that discussion. You're right. Sometimes, the advantage that we won't need to talk about this like that. And it's true, right? Because my role is sometimes
there's no consequence
to put that little frame here, because no, you can't, throw objects in class. No. Sorry, I need to intervene for sure. And then do you see, once you see advantages, okay, now do you agree in respecting this? And if the answer is no, it can happen. The best thing is not to push. We talk about this too. If you want the other person to really go that way, it's an obstacle, because if I push you toward this, you will push back. So are you willing to come that way? Freely? Most people will say yes, especially because they feel free that, to go whatever. And if not, then okay, well, do you think I'll do nothing? Maybe we'll need to discuss other things. And maybe then we are at another level, and it's so interesting to know it too.
So there is something that you just said there that I want to underscore, which is when we impose our will, when we impose our power, we get resistance, because we are stepping on somebody else's free will. If we are stepping on their need for freedom, this will not to go the way that we want it to go, because what we want is for them to want to be there, to choose to be there, to choose to do the work. Well, if we are crushing their freedom, are they going to be able to make that choice? We're taking away the choice.
Yeah.
So we need to be very careful when we're being the boss that we're not stepping and imposing. But going back to giving information that allows the other person to make that choice.
Yes.
And you said something else that I want to underline, then I want to go to comments, because I think we have a few comments here. You talked about understanding versus agreeing. And that is one obstacle that I often face when I'm coaching leaders, is that, if I'm understanding, then it's kind of like I'm giving them a hall pass. And understanding and agreeing are not the same thing. Understanding is about having the knowledge, having the why this is happening, what's happening for them. This is not agreeing with the behavior, and you can't actually deal with the behavior until you understand.
Yes. What
is going on, what's underneath the surface.
Being the detective is useful there.
Exactly. So I usually take off my superhero cape, which gets me in trouble all the time. And I put on my scientist hat.
Yeah.
My lab coat, and I'm going to collect information. What do I need to know to make sense of this situation? And then know how to approach it, how to help. What do they need to know? What do I need to know? And I really love that 7-step approach in having that conversation. So Kelsie-Ann, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the comments here?
Thing. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Shelley Butler said that some of her very best friends are at Dovco, and that she as a leader is very, very clear, and that most of her employees have been with them for 10 plus years. So obviously, you know, what they're doing over there at Dovco, it's working, and those employees are being retained.
So it sounds like what we're sharing today is resonating for Shelley as their approach. That's awesome. That's very awesome. And
I bet they are respectful and demanding.
Yeah,
definitely. And that was the last comment that she made, was #LoveWins. So definitely
and we
kind of
have
leading.
such a fear of talking about love. Like don't talk about emotions in the workplace. Don't talk about love. Don't talk about happiness. Like these words are so feared. And
But
yet these are the emotions.
How do you
right?
talk about those things without talking about people? Because people feel all of these things, right? And you have to deal with it some way.
So what I'm hoping Kelsie-Ann is feeling with me and in our business is I'm hoping that she's feeling love, that she's feeling acceptance, a sense of belonging, excitement, joy, trust. It's a feeling.
Definitely.
So these are the things I'm hoping that she feels, because emotions are actually going to help direct if she's working towards me or away from me. They're the little signals that her brain is giving her, telling the rest of her behavioral system what to do, where to move, if she should move. So emotions are very important. So understanding, going back to that understanding how your employees feel and why they feel that way makes a big difference. And if you're going to be able to be their friend and step up as a leader.
Yeah. And you know, that 7 steps, the last step is thank you for your collaboration. Thank you for being there. Thank you for having this discussion. Then you turn out something where an employee or something under your guidance is in the wrong path, and you finish by empowering that person and saying thank you, so you feel elevated.
Appreciation.
Shelley says we need to love on people. I use the word love daily at work, and it's true.
Thank you. All we need is love. Artists are yelling this and singing this, and we're all human beings, not just artists. Right. Everybody.
And how many unfortunately don't receive necessarily love at home, so they need to receive it at work, right? Or they're not filling their buckets enough at home, so like it would be good to fill their bucket at work too.
Yeah.
So now the caveat there is, if you are not using these words in the workplace, if this is not socially acceptable at this time in the workplace, start small.
Yeah, as Shelley says, it's time to learn the new language, and it's so true.
So often what I'll do is I'll teach leaders different ways that they can start inserting this language without being so like using things that might tip people off their chairs. So if what are you feeling is not okay in the culture that you're in, maybe what's coming up for you. So these little slight variations can help you start integrating without necessarily going against the culture that you're in. So culture is hard to change, but it's not impossible. It's just a matter of being consistent, working with the culture and integrating.
And if you really love where you work and with whom you work, when you love somebody enough, you respect their words.
Mm.
So it's
now-
a good idea. Words are just 10% of the language nonetheless. So,
That's true. So relationships at work. So why is this topic important? People ask me, like, why do you talk about these things? It's so controversial, or it's seemingly, why is it controversial? One, I'm like this, and why are people struggling with this? We want to pretend that people aren't, but I'm telling you, behind the scenes, we're struggling with this. So David, as a choice theory instructor, what is it about relationships? Why are they important at work?
oh my gosh, where to begin with? I would say it's the oxygen for your mental health. Without relationship, without love, relationship leads to having love there. You just perish inside, I would say. So, and it's interesting. I believe also it's the same with like bosses around. Like when students are failing, I heard a lot of stories, and most students, when they talk to me about their fail experience, most of them said, well, it's because the teacher didn't love me. This is like, I would say 90% of the time they say that. Interesting, right? And if I speak to the teacher, of course, no, he's fine, just that, it didn't work or whatever, but he didn't feel loved. And my bet is employees that are leaving, which is kind of a fail, do not feel loved, appreciated, respected, challenged, maybe sometimes. It's all in there. With love, it's bigger. That's why I use it. Go off your chairs, no problem. But because love is more than just being a friend, is more than being friendly.
Sense of belonging.
Yeah.
The sense of belonging is such an important need, and it's the one need that will lead directly to mental health issues.
There you go.
If we are not feeling that sense of belonging at work, we are not going to stay, or we're going to get really sick.
Yeah. And another thing I heard in a conference was very interesting. You are either in a positive spiral or in a negative spiral. And in between, beginning of which one are you? You're not really in between. There's no neutral place there.
Yeah.
So, okay. Are you in a positive spiral or in a negative spiral? Interesting. There, in one side, there's love. Just saying.
That's the side you want to be on.
Yeah.
And that neutral. This is where we that's the pretend. That's the bury your head in the sand. Everything is neutral. That's what we think we want in the workplace, and it doesn't exist.
Well, it's the first step in the negative spiral, denial.
Denial. There you go.
And it's okay to be in denial.
And we were just working on trust. Kelsie-Ann and I were working on a piece about trust earlier today, and we were looking at the cost of distrust, or low trust versus trust. When you have trust, you have collaboration, we're working together, we're allies, we're solving problems together, we're creating solutions together. We can co-create when we have trust, but when we have distrust, it makes or breaks businesses. And we want to pretend that it's not an issue, but only 23% of employees, this was a study from March 2021, only 23% trust their leaders at work. How can we lead if we are not trusted? Who wants to follow an untrustworthy leader? And it's not that we're untrustworthy as leaders, it's that perception that employees have of us.
Yeah.
So can you forego that relationship? Can you forego being a friend, being an ally? Can you afford that? because that is where you have turnover. This is when employees are not working at capacity. So let's say they're working at, let's say 75% capacity. You're paying them $100,000 a year. So you're losing $25,000 per employee. How many employees do you have? Okay, so that is the cost of not operating at 100%. Now you have turnover. So for every employee lost, you lose 150 to 400% of their salary. So if that employee's salary was 100,000, that could, the turnover of that employee could be as much as 400,000.
Ouch.
Now that climate is being felt by clients and customers. So now you're losing business. So what is the worth of a client, and how many will you lose? And if everyone's concerned about taking care of themselves, now you're struggling, you're on that negative spiral, you're not meeting your strategic goals. So 9 in 10 businesses don't meet their yearly strategic goals. 9 in 10. If you're not meeting your strategic goals, that means you're not hitting your money targets. How long can you not meet those goals?
And here you talked about not being pushy, and I hear this, and of course the reflex is, oh, I need to squeeze that last 25%. No, I want to have it, but yes, but to have it, you need to nurture, to put some compost on that little plant, and and give some water, and and cut branches away so sun can shine in. So it's kind of our instinct is partly telling us the opposite. Let's be honest.
And that's exactly, it's when the stress is and stress will happen. So, who we are on a good day and who we are on a bad day is not the same. So when we become stressed, our shadow side comes out. So we might be super understanding when we're happy. And then when we become stressed, things need to happen. The deadline is there, and stress does happen in business all the time. It's just about how much stress do you have on that day. We want to force it. Our will comes out. We're trying to force things. Then we meet the resistance. Then we're getting resentment and eventually disengagement. Now we have a much bigger problem, because disengagement is a hard thing to turn around once you're there.
My feeling is that actually in difficult situation, maybe what could be a key path would be to love anyways when we are in the difficult path. Love ourselves when we're imperfect and we hurt them and it causes them to lose trust. Love ourselves enough to see it, to welcome ourselves in this, and have the courage sometimes to admit it. I know that this is where, and I know it's a tricky thing, and that's here my opinion, but I think that sometimes I gain points, not by let's say punishing myself in front of my students, but sometimes acknowledge that, oh, you know what, here I was wrong. So I was tired and I was wrong there, and thank you, because you taught me by your reaction that I need to readjust.
And that's the only thing that works when people feel betrayed. Betrayals can wipe out trust. Like, it's the one thing that will close an account. Just wipes out all of the trust built, all of the goodwill. And the only possibility of recovering that trust is by apologizing. But the apology is not, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not an apology. An apology is taking responsibility for your behavior, giving the other person more information about your intentions and how you're going to be doing it differently. moving forward? What's going to be different in the future? And that is a real apology.
Yeah.
That has the potential of winning you back that goodwill and those trust points.
Yeah. And having the courage to admit that you're a human being is something that people can admire and look up to.
Yeah. So David, if we were to sum up one important piece of what we discussed today, and there's been many, many nuggets. So if you're listening, I hope you're taking notes because there's been many nuggets. What is one message or one key thing you want people to take away from the conversation?
I would say embrace readjustments with love, whatever side it is, as growing opportunities.
Kelsie-Ann, what's your big aha or takeaway today?
I think it's that love is in the workplace, and we sometimes have to remember the wheel of emotions, and that it's not, we don't get to pick and choose what emotions we take with us, like we may choose what goes into our lunchbox at work if we take it from home, right? Like we don't get to pick, oh, I'm not going to deal with anger today, I'm not going to deal with happiness, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. You could, depending on who you're interacting with at work, have any one of those emotions or all of them. Hopefully not at the same time.
And to feel is to feel all of the things, and it's not positive or negative, it's comfortable and uncomfortable, but all of them are useful.
They are.
So navigating the emotions is so important.
Yeah, that negative or positive spiral from somebody who does have some challenges with anxiety. I totally get those spirals of just spiraling and not feeling in control. So, but that, that there is a negative and a positive to that as well. So thank you for that.
So if you've been here on this journey with us, I'd love to hear what your takeaway is from this beautiful conversation. Thank you and I call it a journey because we come unscripted. We have things that a subject we want to talk about, but we use this live stream as an exploration. And I want to thank David for joining us today, for joining me to go on that exploration.
I love it. I love it. And Melissa, what's your takeaway?
Well, my takeaway, and I think it's the thing that I always come back to, is be kind and give the information that people need. Because if you don't give the information, we have a bias. We all carry this bias that we think other people know what we know. So we think, it's obvious, and why aren't they doing their job? And they should just do it, right? It's just, we get caught up in that. But the reason why they're not doing their job is there is information that they don't have. And what choice theory teaches us is that we are always making the best decisions based on the information we have at the moment. So what's missing? And if you can start asking yourself that question, what's missing for them? What piece of information can I give them? And it's not about judging them. It's not about putting them down. It's not about criticizing or giving them some kind of horrible performance review. This is not what I'm talking about. There is a piece of information that will help them see a clearer picture and connect some dots so they can make better, more aligned decisions with you. And in the process, you can rebuild that relationship. Or, if it's not broken, then it's getting better, right? You can, disagreements and working through things are actually an opportunity to strengthen relationships. And I hope that's something that you can walk away with, that you don't have to be the friend or you don't have to be the boss. There is a beautiful balance that you can bring to the equation. Kelsie-Ann, we have a workshop, and I think that's what you were just about to say. So if this subject was interesting, We actually have a workshop next week, all week, 1 hour a day. It's called the Influential Leader Workshop, where we're going to be diving deeper into these concepts. I'm going to be sharing with you tools that I use on the ground. So when I'm stepping into employee engagement or performance issues or team issues, the tools that I am using. This is what I'm going to be teaching next week, starting Monday. So Kelsie-Ann, can you drop the link inside or in the comments so you can join us next week? So what we'll be covering are how to spot disengagement so you can stop it in its tracks. The easiest way to deal with disengagement is to see it before it happens. And there is a sliding scale. It's not engaged or disengaged. There's a bit of sliding that happens, and then they slide into neutral before they get to disengage. But often we're only noticing once we have the big problems, when we have the big symptoms. So I want to show you how to spot it beforehand so you can stop it. The second thing we're going to be covering is, depending on the situation that you're in, needs a different approach. So being able to assess, I'm going to give you kind of like a pair of glasses so you can look at that engagement or performance issue and figure out, what situation am I in right now and what approach does it need and how much effort should I be putting in? Sometimes we hang on too long and we throw everything at it and we try to fix something that's unfixable. So I'm wanting to save you. Exactly. So I'm going to hopefully save you a lot of time and resources by giving you a new pair of glasses so you can see situations for what they are and you can assess them and figure out what you need to put into it. And third, I'm going to show you my 3-step influence system. So this is going to help you even before getting into these hard conversations with employees, what you can do so this hard conversation is a transformational conversation. It actually doesn't need to be hard, and it can be an opportunity for you to strengthen the relationships as you are aligning and boosting that performance. And we really want to position you, or I really want to position you where you can be a coach, where you can be an ally. You are not the enemy here, and they are not the enemy. And you can help them be in a position of them wanting to be there, them wanting to do the job, them wanting to take initiative and actually doing it. And you'd be amazed when you set that up and when you open the door, how many employees will be excited to walk through that threshold.
And this is in the win-win area that you talk about. This is where you get the 100%.
Exactly. So this is what we're going to be covering next week. Shelley says she's on vacation. Okay, Shelley. Kelsie-Ann, can you take a note of Shelley? If we do it again, we'll send you a little message so that you know. Also, anyone who's wanting to do it but can't be there every day, there's replays being sent out as we go, so you can stay up to date and join us the next day without missing anything. So thank you.
To share a few takeaways, quick takeaways.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Shelley said my takeaway is that we need to talk about love and why it's important in the workplace. And Jason said, thanks for this. It's very insightful information. So
awesome.
Good point there.
So happy. And if you're watching on the replay, please leave me comments. I actually check the comments. I respond to comments. I love comments. So leave them with me. I know that David will be checking as well. David, if they want to check out InspireX, can we leave them a link or something?
Sure. You have to know that it's in French though, but yes, with great pleasure. And one last feedback that I need to say that, I saw the week that you're doing, I saw you on action there, and I found it really useful to touch base again. And, life goes super fast. You want to have, in a busy life, to have a performance life. You want to have those little time stop where you're just like, okay, am I, aligned there? Do I have clarity on what's the next step? And those little hours are precious time. to invest within your life, actually, and it will, whatever you know already, if you know a lot, you know enough to know that it's good to stop and
Valuable.
question yourself.
And leadership is very much a practice. So
Yeah.
it's not enough to know it. You
No.
need to practice it. And
Yeah.
my best students, the ones that are really living the talk and walking the talk, they are immersed in it, and they keep practicing with me, practicing at work, revisiting the topics, going deeper, peeling back the onion. So it's not enough to know about the surface concept, but really peeling back the layers of what it looks like in this situation and that situation. Let's look at this one. And there's something beautiful in that. And I know for myself, it's a constant practice. So if you know me, I'm always in training and in practicum, some way, shape, or form. So thank you for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. And I'd love to hear your comments. Please leave them. And if you can join us for the workshop, it will be well worth your investment in yourself. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.